So the second story I want to get into real quick is Mayor Eric Adams. He's now a poet. I'll call him Eric Edgar Allan Poe.
Our cup has basically runneth over.
Or Eric Allan Poe. I'm trying to think of a funny way to put that, but he says, the cup doth runneth over with illegal immigrants, and he just has no more capacity.
We stated several months ago that we have reached full capacity. And that full capacity was verbalized, and now New York is just going to be visually actualized. We're going to see how much of our cup has basically runneth over. We have no more room in the city, and we need help.
Someone said Eric Adam Poe. Exactly. There you go. Doth runneth over with illegals. We have no more room. Send them back or get them out of here.
Yeah. I don't think that's how the cup runneth over phrase is supposed to work. I think it's supposed to be like an abundance of good. But it's just funny. I find it very funny how these politicians are so slippery and slimy with the doublespeak. It's like, you told them to come. Everybody, any person with even the slightest bit of rational understanding knows that you guys are already struggling for a multitude of reasons, and you're just going to welcome all of these people in, not only welcome in, but encourage them in, and then get all of the good boy points and the theoretical morality points for doing so, and then make this sad press conference where you're scratching your arm and showing your nervous tail because you're full of it, just like Wiener. It's like he's scratching his arm like a kid would do if they were telling a lie.
Right. And I think everybody knows, including the voters, I would think at least 90%, if you asked average people on the street or voters, which party wants to curb illegal immigration? It's the Republican Party. Which party welcomes them in? Which party is open arms? Which party wants to tear down the wall like Beto O'Rourke? It's the Democrats. So this idea that he's that we don't have the space. Yeah, of course you don't. But what do you think is happening in Arizona and Texas? And although I understand why people say, why are they sending them to New York? Why are they sending them to Martha's Vineyard? Why don't they just send them back? The laws are prohibiting them from doing that. Well, I agree that they probably should, but the best part of them sending them to New York is now we get Eric Adams, who's Eric Adam Poe, saying that the cup doth runneth over. He has no room, and it's just exposing that, if it's that bad in New York, then I can't imagine how it is in Yuma and a lot of these border towns.
Yeah, but that's because the only institution that can deport people is the federal government. So if they won't do it, a governor can't deport you, and really you wouldn't want a governor to have the power to deport you out of the country entirely. So right. It's a good thing, but they said with open arms, this is a sanctuary city, and it's you can't collect all of the fake morality points and all of the good boy points and all of the votes and all of the admiration by saying that you're a sanctuary city, and then also get clapped by it and pretend like it's you don't know where it's coming from. They do it because they value the political clout more than they value the execution of what's actually going to happen as a result. Because all of these politicians, for the most part, especially leftist ones, they're complete narcissists, and the only thing that they care about is being famous, having power, and getting rich. And Eric Adams is one of the worst, wearing his shiny shoes and smiling from ear to ear at the Met Gala and hobnobbing with people and trying to be their pal. It's do your job. You don't need to be you're not a celebrity. No one really likes you. They just like right. you. They just dislike you less than the next idiot that's running as well.
And I think that most politicians are narcissists, but especially on the left, we'll talk about the right in a second. I love to do that, as people know. But on the left, at least on the right, it's easier to fake and pretend because there's actually some pretty solid, sensible things that you could kind of grasp. And you're like, oh, that makes sense. That's basic common sense. But on the left, they're so dishonest in the modern era. Bill Clinton would be considered a far-right extremist if he came out and acted like every Democrat used to act in the 1990s. They weren't that fake back then. They just weren't. Now you have to be a narcissist to be Gavin Newsom. You got to know that, it's trying to find Temecula and send them children gay books and stuff, acting like that's free speech. He doesn't know what he thought 7 years ago. They don't know how a border wall works. They don't know how immigration works. Of course they know. They all know. Eric Adams knows. Gavin Newsom knows. You could see it in his glassy villain eyes that he's not he's like an empty soul, just kind of mocking himself as he's speaking. He knows exactly what he's doing. So I think all politicians or most are very narcissistic, but in order to be a Democrat in this point, your whole life has to be hypocrisy and you have to play stupid. I mean, if you even suggest that like, you know, a biologically born man shouldn't play like women's sports, then like that's too far. So you even have to curb your thoughts about that or else you're kicked out of the club. So they must just be such terrible people at this point.
Yeah. Well, I think what they've realized, it's like the free market, love it or hate it, but the politics is the free market just the same way. It's like they have realized that politics is nothing more than marketing and branding. It's not about execution. It's not about the product. It's like buying a product off the internet with no return policy. It's like by the time it gets to your house, if it tastes like shit, you're stuck. You're out of options. What they do is they are like, they know that as long as they can win marketing and branding wise, it doesn't matter what actually happens, so long as you can convince them in the public eye that you have done more good things than bad. So they don't care what actually happens. All they care is that they have more things that look good than don't. And it's a pure marketing game, I think, at this point.